Hi guys. Someone sent me this article. It's quite interesting. I also saw this one this afternoon, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I didn't know that it could reach other people, but they said, like, what do I think about this? Because as you know, I started this vlog talking about things that other people are not comfortable talking about, especially Filipinas. So for 2021, quote and unquote, um, this is in verbatim. Pornhub's year in review reveals more Filipino women are on site than men. So that's really interesting. And it's a very, very sophisticated and well written article. I believe that whoever wrote this one, they wrote it in a respectful way. It's not so like, it's not degrading, and at the same time it's not looking down on Filipinas, because when I read some comments online, it's like, oh, some people blah blah blah, they're kind of ashamed of this, this is shameful because they're Filipinos, blah 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 blah. So the writer is really really good. So it says here, this 2021 there were a number of interesting insights on how Filipinos spend their time on Pornhub, including the fact that more women are on site than men. So they said here that the country, Philippines, is also on the top ninth source of traffic of the site. So that's really interesting, especially this December. It's quite cold in the Philippines. They would say, oh, it's December, you have no boyfriend yet, you feel cold or something. So number one, so time spent per minute, apparently Philippines is one. So you guys could see this one. I'm gonna put it down here. And then number two, maybe Japan, and United States is somewhere 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11, I suppose. And then top 20 countries by traffic, number 9 is the Philippines. It's very interesting. And portion of female visitors, number 1 is Philippines, number 2 Colombia, Argentina, Mexico, Ukraine, Spain, Brazil, Chile, and United States, and then Canada, Poland, and so on and so forth. So they also said that 37% of Filipinos on Pornhub are aged 18 to 24, with 29% coming from those aged 25 to 32, and 15% from 35 to 44, and 9% from ages 45 to 54. And it also said that 74% of Filipino watchers use their mobile devices when visiting these sites. So the term Pinay continues to be the most searched by Filipinos, with other terms such as hentai, Japanese, and Korean following the suit. Okay, so let's chop this. The person was asking me, what do I think about this? Well, just like in the article, I'm so happy that Filipinas are starting to embrace their sexuality, sensuality, and the existence of this kind of industry. You see, way back, like there's like this huge scrutiny of these women working in bars, pubs. I know it's so different, but on the other hand, they kind of, people working in bars or pubs, they know these things like way earlier, or way more open, or maybe they're just more vocal about it than women who are hush hush about it. Now, sorry guys, let me give you an idea. So in the past, as you know, Philippines was colonized by Spain. So under Spain, we were under their rule for about 300 years. So in this generation, and during that time, it was instilled in our brains that, Christianity, and then even Ouija board, fortune telling, and a mention of sexuality is a bit unacceptable. Not unacceptable, but it's kind of like, it's not good, because you're like a daughter of the devil. That's why during my grandma's generation, I remember she told me that my grandfather kissed her cheeks, and then they made him marry her. So that's how, how important is it to, save face, what other people think, and so on. And that's also another thing why, remember when my father lives in Angeles City, Balibago. Until now, he lives around there. So I grew up in that place. And the safest place for me to walk was the walking street. Walking street is like, Thailand's red light district. Why do I feel safe there? It is because there are a lot of people there. People standing at the door and then walking and so on. Because if I walk at the other side, the park, I could get robbed. I could get raped because there are a lot of weird people there. I remember me and my friends, we were talking there maybe at around 8 p.m. and then suddenly friends, okay, 5 women. There's this man who just flashed. So like, OMG. So, and then I also met, because maybe they always see me wearing my school uniform, then I see them as well. People working in that area, we have this unspoken, like hello, like that, and your eyes. So I feel really safe, and then you just turn left and a bit left, and then I get home safely from school. So I realized that these people, they have embraced these things way earlier, maybe force and unforced or so on and so forth. Now, I'm just glad that it's coming to this point where Filipinos nowadays are more open about it instead of being embarrassed. Now, are there some, as you can see, there's also like a difference, right, between the support of this kind of platform. It says here that most of them are like 18 to 24, the highest, and then lowest 9% from 45 to 54, and so on. Now, why is there? As you can see, there's already this, age gap. So these people from ages 45 to 54, they were still the kids of people who are embarrassed to talk about these things in public or to search for it because they feel this guilt, like, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is sinful, and so on and so forth. Wherein the younger generation are more open to it. And sometimes I think it's a little bit, some people are a little bit, what do you call that? Like hypocrites. Why? It is because most of our drama, they're about mistresses, and they're so sensual, like that. So I'm like, come on, if you guys can do it, you have these programs, why not, right? And now, of course, I'm also worried that some, people who are not supposed to access this, maybe minors. I mean, it's their choice and none of my business, but still, it's better to go to school. But I'm still concerned about that some people will take advantage. But on the other hand, I also think that maybe because they would be more exposed to these things, the good part is some programs, I think, they show the usage of protection, and it's okay. But on the other hand, it can also be this, destructive. It is because, some people might use it to, just they will feel they want to do it, and then they get pregnant, and that's another teenage pregnancy, which I have no judgment, if it happens. But the problem is they have a lot of more things to see, I guess, but they can see that even if they have a baby. But still, like they I cannot say wasted opportunities, because some people, even though they become single parents, they have these huge opportunities. Let's say some people are not as fortunate as other people, so what they get exposed to these things, and then it's not good. They get pregnant, and then no one's helping them. Worst case scenario, their future would not be okay. But best case scenario, if their family is supportive, then that's fine. So that's the thing. And then another thing why there's a huge interest, I think, about this, I think it's because of 2021 specifically. I think because aside from our internet access, we are in this pandemic. I remember there was a joke between my aunt and my aunts, among my aunts. So my grandma is had 9 children. So my aunt said, "Oh, because in your grandma's generation, it was just a joke. Of course, there was electricity. There was no hobby, no electricity, so they just do it. So now there are 9 kids." So I kind of think it's something like this. Although I kind of find it interesting as well because they said Japan is a part of it. Thinking because I think like if this is how Japan needs it, their people population would be fine, or maybe they're more open to contraceptives and condoms and so on and so forth. So I couldn't really judge. Now, sorry, I have runny nose. Um, yeah. Now, for me, if the person who's watching this is well aware of the consequences or the things that they would feel, and they're doing this without being forced and so on, I think that's fine. And if they do this because they want to learn to keep their husbands, then that's fine. Now, another reason, aside from the internet, another reason why there was a huge interest in maybe this one, of course, aside from pandemic, number one, internet service, it's more accessible, you can do it discreetly. Number two, pandemic, people are bored, just like my grandma. Sorry, grandma, I love you. Please wait for me until I get back home. Number three, of course, curiosity, what you see on TV, or other people. And that's been there for a long time during Playboy magazines, I suppose. But number four, I believe that the Catholic Church doesn't have a strong hold as they do before. Like, we don't feel so much guilty about this, and we're more open about it, or, it's all good. Number five, there are a lot of sorts of what we call scandals or revenge porn. So sometimes people are just curious about these people who get, and who are engaged to these things, and then they are curious like what happened and why. And then like some people, they just find happiness in seeing, like popular school girls going to these types of schools, and then they have this porn. And maybe as a woman, for me, when I see like maybe a show-off woman like saying, "Oh, I'm better than you," but then she's doing these things, it's like kind of, it makes me feel better because you're showing off, but actually you're doing this. So the morality of it. And number five, I suppose that, since a lot of Filipinos couldn't go home, so one way for them to please their partners is maybe doing these things or watching these things so that they can be happy online, which is no judgment. And last but not the least, I suppose it's just the embracing of sexuality. So I'm really, really happy about that. And yeah, I guess that's the best part of it. Or unless they want, they don't want to lose their husbands, right? So I think that's also a good thing. Unless it's the mistress who's watching it, right? So anyway, all in all, embracing this one is good, but too much or being forced, or if the effect is gonna be teenage pregnancy and it's gonna be our tax money feeding these babies, then that's a no-no. But if it's, just embracing your sexuality and so on, then I guess that's fine. So, as for me, of course, I would be honest. Of course, I see these things as well. I'm not prude or whatever. And maybe because when I was young, I was surrounded, with red light district. I'm like, oh, these things exist and they happen. But during that time, I couldn't really talk about it. But now I know that they're watching it. So what's there to hide, right? So how about you guys? What do you think about this? Are you happy or sad, surprised like me? I'm not surprised. I'm happy actually. I really hope that even though Filipinos would start watching these things, they would still practice self-respect, and at the same time, they would also practice safe sex. Why is that? It is because to avoid teenage pregnancy, especially this pandemic, everything is so unsure. So one of the best things we could do is to not have an extra responsibility that we couldn't afford. So I'm saying this because I am a daughter of, not so responsible people, but still, I'm proud of them that they're responsible now. So anyway, I hope you like this video, and hit like, subscribe, and please check the article down below. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.